Well, yeah. Just go with it. Looks good. Again?
I always said this company, meeting budget out of the budget, but we're not like a crapshoot.
She said
Well,
she missed it.
really, you know what's gonna happen.
It's a crapshoot.
You never know.
Really, I'll tell you, I was good maybe 12 out of 13 years. 13 years. Everybody was
That type of position.
I mean, I'm sorry,
Yeah,
they want to pay me
You
like
gotta take it, you can't be like,
yeah.
oh, well,
That's when the economy crashed.
yes.
No, but it-
Yeah, but it was just like a damn. Lake up. Okay, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Board of Directors meeting for Mid-Coast Solid Waste Corporation, May 2023. Begin with our agenda. First item is any director comments. Seeing any, we'll move to item 2. Review approval of March 29, 2023 meeting. Any comments?
The meeting minutes for the meeting of March.
Motion made and seconded for discussion. All in favor?
Yes.
Until it changes, we will see. The third item is our facility management manager's report. Stuff in there tonight. So, yeah, so, I have a couple of things that I on the agenda that's in there. On the board, that we have a third of the bulldozer, yeah, unexpected third of the bulldozer. Dying out. Yep. I don't know if anybody's had anybody from Beauregard or anybody working on the equipment on their basis. And they started working with the least expensive items first, working their way through to weed those out, see what it is, and then they're being the most expensive. Of course, we went through the process of elimination, doing the things that are less expensive. Make a long story short, the whole cost of the end up replacing valves on the bulldozer. It's $14,786 and half of that. We have a balance in the account $3,900, which is roughly $6,000 budget. So what I plan on doing is taking this to the finance committee at a later time, and we're supposed to do budget and talking about other things, and we might have to carry some money forward. We have to submit it from reserve. So just awareness. No actions required. I mean, they first thought it was things in the something in the fuel tank that was causing filters to kick out because it was suffocating. He didn't give us a reason why it happened.
It's not like valves, the very first part you go down, lubrication from the sulfur.
Sulfur alone.
Right.
So you make things cleaner, but they make things hotter. That's what I'm going to store up.
Is there any additives you can?
There is.
There must be, there has to
There is.
These truck drivers. They're still driving millions of miles.
I used to put that traffic.
I mean, that's a good question.
I don't know
how many hours, Dave? Since it was,
Idling, running backwards,
Running backwards.
4,000.
Run backward,
Well,
Well, it's not.
should run backward, but
Oh,
it could,
oh,
just idle.
you know, you,
I don't know the year, to be honest with you. It must be one.
I didn't mean to get off topic.
Yeah, I wasn't.
I'm sorry.
I would have had the, date and
Yeah.
that was-
What else, Dave?
that's everybody else. I don't know.
Let's see here, it says here, who it is.
Hi, everyone.
I think any difference with one.
Yeah, no,
Right,
that's
yeah.
the big thing. Second thing is Rich Borton from Drummond Environmental contacted me about, he's been working with somebody called Frank Haggerty, who's also in, water institutions. He's helped us for many years over there. He's secured deal, or he's gotten we're in the process of negotiating. All that. You gotta have some. Next thing is, we'll go into the part about the recommendations from the workshop. No. We'll get to that.
Any other questions for Dave on the man?
Apparently, audio is awful. So everybody can do their best.
Speak
audio
up.
From them,
Yeah,
themselves, but I will also send feedback on that.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is, we've obviously in the packet, we received letter of retirement from our long-time council. And, we've contemplating this for quite a while. This letter was received officially by the people. So we do have a general consideration. We will discussion, discuss the possibility of coloring. As said, it has been. Recommendations of the board.
Is that what, is the any conflict of interest there?
I don't believe-
Camden's town attorney, right, and plus I know Hope's got it as an attorney, so I don't know if that would.
I don't think so. The main reason I say this is because, anything that's good for mental health is going to be good for the town. So that's why I don't see that conflict, but it's a concern.
As an interim recommendation from Paul. This is just my personal view. One of those things that the rest of the board, good governance, see what we get. I see that Paul said get out of the area here, maybe it's doing good. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's fine. I think we can, I hear you saying is, if we need something right now, we need, but in the interim, we could send an RFP if you and check it out.
Yeah.
My
The
gut,
other thing is, like, to your point, we're gonna have a new board here in a month, so regardless of how many member turnover we have, so we're gonna have to either re-educate or wait until the next board.
I suspect in the interim period, whatever that interim is with, if the board wants to do that, he's not going to charge us anything. Because he's only retained. So as long as it's nothing substantial, we're doing stuff that we really haven't used in terms of correctly. Really, other than personnel, which is different. And I wouldn't change that. We haven't used general counsel. I haven't used any.
Forgive me if it was there and I didn't see it. Was there a date effective?
It's
Already.
it actually has been, we just have to push it. Yeah, we did it almost. So anyway.
Didn't we make a recommendation, what would we do in the conflict? For him, didn't he make a recommendation at one point, we use some lady, I don't know what her name was, I don't remember what the issue was, something called.
What I believe is the same lady we're using for personnel.
Oh, okay. Was it,
Correct.
who it was?
Correct.
First, I mean, we've always had for a long time, had a separate
Yes.
office for all of the personnel, labor, union negotiations.
Oh, maybe that's what.
As it turns out. But once we do, when we're doing the contract for the next week, it's the stuff like the waste, long-term waste contracts and that kind of stuff where having the attorney is important. And also where we did, I don't know if I'm working when we got it's like somebody with Deb Hall, who spent a bit of money with somebody else as a governance thing.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did.
Yeah, something like that. I personally found that to be, I was very gung ho about this idea of having an RFP and shopping around and getting some other people, and I immediately understood a little bit better why you might not want somebody from Portland all the time. If they spend a lot of time just researching the basics of like the interlocal agreement and that's where somebody like Bill Kelly knows because of representing Hope and representing Camden and just all that stuff that they already know that you end up paying somebody a lot to figure out. Like, does it have to go to a vote if we sign a long-term waste contract? Those types of questions. So, I agree that Bill's a good option.
I think we should at least start the interim period, whatever it is, but if we need counsel, reach out to Bill Kelly until we get next board to put out an RFP, if that's what they want to do, and evaluate the attorneys and make it.
You make a motion to go forward to use Bill Kelly.
I mean, it's probably wise to do so.
I'll make the motion to consult the Midwest Waste to consult Bill Kelly in the interim that if we do put this out to an RFP that in the near future, well, since ours is retired, that we go to Bill Kelly and in my motion, I would say that I would highly recommend Bill Kelly, having dealt with him a lot.
And hope behind all the different doors we were behind. He not only knows his stuff, but very easy to deal with, very easy to contact, he's just what I would consider the perfect person for this types of organizations.
Have a second?
Thanks.
Either one of us. Okay, either one of you. Any further discussion? All those in favor? And Josh, can I have a verbal from you?
Unfortunately, the audio has been so terrible, I have no idea what you guys have been talking about, so I'm going to abstain.
Okay, that's fine, no worries. So we were talking about council.
I had to change, for some reason, the owl isn't working well. No, that's not gonna do it. It's, I mean, the volume, that's the volume for us. I just switched the audio source to my, the microphone to my computer, and it made it a lot better for some reason, so it's all
Alston,
good.
just as an aside, you might be able just to turn off the audio filtering on the owl cam.
Yeah, I've gone through a bunch of that. But
Okay.
if this is working for you for now, then we'll do this.
Okay, sounds good.
That's the mute button.
No, he abstains.
No, he abstained.
He abstains, so
Yeah.
that's fine.
Josh, just so you know, the very first vote we took was to approve the minutes from the last meeting, and I voted a yay for you.
For Lincolnville.
I would have voted that way, so thank you.
Okay,
All right,
I know you like the back of my hand somewhat.
here we go. On to item 5, which is basically, if I missed it, I didn't see the video, but the May 10, 2024, next year's workshop, review, Dave was asked to answer 2 questions, which are listed here as A and B. First one, Dave, the request for proposal from RC for long-term disposal option, at least the elements of that of saying, you want to discuss that?
Sure. So I was requested to look into 2 items. And it's up to the matter which order I pick.
It's up to you.
So one of them was to contact the MRC for a potential contract with MRC and what the solid numbers were going to be, because the numbers were really estimates at the point of doing the budget.
Yeah.
So I contacted Mike Carroll, the executive director, and he talked with the board as well as the new partners. And gave me a solid number to work off of. It would be a 10-year and 15-year contract. So I broke down the numbers of what he gave me over here. And I made the same little grid as I did when I did the breakdown of the budget. Right. So that you guys have all the total costs. Anybody have the total costs of the disposal, whether it be trucking or operational, they're all wrapped into the total fee that we've adjusted. So the other thing is I also contacted Waste Management and requested a 1-month extension, so we didn't have to make a decision today. So no vote needs to be made today. So we've got 1 more month. So the end of next month, we have to make a decision on the offer that Waste Management has given us. This right here is the MRC's comparable 10 and 15-year numbers, which are basically $93 a ton for a 10-year contract, plus $2.
Jay, just a quick question, this is 6,000 tons, that was 6,500?
I used 6,000 everywhere, so I just stuck with the same number.
All right.
So the MRC offered for a 10-year contract, it was $93 a ton plus for a $2 per ton charge, MRC charge kind of, which equals $95 a ton. And then option 2 for a 15-year is 96 with a $2 MRC per ton membership fee, equaling $98 per ton. So now you have the MRC's numbers, and then you also have in the packet.
You got those 2 flipped around.
Did I do it? Oh, I do. I'm sorry. That was my Bobby Wright. It's the 15 is the.
No biggie.
Yeah, just
No biggie.
please, option 1
No biggie.
is really
Thank you.
15-year, option 2 is a 10.
Thank you.
The lower one's the longer term.
Right.
Thank you.
Sure. So to the total.
So if you look on, I mean, we don't have to do it now, but maybe look, when you get back, maybe look at this and compare it to the Waste Management numbers. But what I also have to say is, we had to get rid of the blue foam from the docks. And I just didn't want to fill the compactors up with that blue foam, because basically you're hauling 4 tons of waste of air all the way to Norge Walk, and then you're landfilling it. So I contacted PERC to see if I could send a load of that there and use a walking floor trailer, because I figured it'd be a little easier. Got 1 trip instead of 2. And they accepted the material, and they incinerated it. And while I was talking to them, I said, is there any change in, potential for a little contract with you guys, for a long-term contract? And they said, yeah, things have kind of changed. There's some things going on right now, and he couldn't talk about it. But he said that potentially there might be an opportunity for us to go to PERC. Not a for sure, but it might be a third option. Because remember you had asked about.
No numbers.
Nothing yet. I'm working on that.
Yeah.
But you never know, because he says there's some stuff going on. There's a lot of moving and shaking going on right now.
A lot going on.
Oh, yeah.
Tremendous amount in the works.
Right, so, we don't really know, but I think we just need to kind of hang tight and see what loosens up, and then make a decision on what's the best option for the organization. Okay. So then the second direction was to look into contacting the regulatory agency about the potential for what are the next steps to move forward with some type of investigation into the treatment of our own leachate on site, as opposed to sending that to the treatment plant. I contacted the stormwater person, and this is kind of not really an oversight on my part, but she made a good point, is that because this is treatment, it would almost not fall into the stormwater category, it ends up falling into the wastewater category. So then but she was gonna check with the group that she works with, but I think she's right. The more I thought about it, we would end up being like a wastewater treatment facility per se, which would need a discharge license, which would then have parameters in it. It's really not any different than what I talked about. It's just a different group. It's not the stormwater group, it's the wastewater group. So,
who decides the difference between stormwater and wastewater?
it's regulated, it's decided by statute. So the statute defines what one is and what the other is.
And the gentleman we talked with a couple of weeks ago wouldn't have been privy to.
Well, he doesn't know Maine.
That's my point.
He doesn't know Maine. To him, it's
Right.
it's the DEP. He doesn't. Within DEP, you've got all these factions. You've got the stormwater, you've got the wastewater, you've got the solid waste, you've got the hazardous waste, you've got there's 15 different groups within DEP, and they don't all talk to each other sometimes.
Right.
So
that's shocking.
So anyway, we're gonna look into talking with the wastewater people to see what, it almost is like easier in one regard dealing with the wastewater, because they're gonna be very specific on what they want.
Yeah.
They're gonna say, all right, if you're putting it in this body of water, you're gonna have to have these standards met, and you'll have to do this, or you can't do it at all. They're gonna let us know.
Right.
So that's what came out of that conversation. I'm moving forward with that. And it's not finalized, but that is a step moving forward. She's looking into it on her end. I also talked with her about the discharge of the water from the North Quarry as stormwater, because that is stormwater. And she said, I told her that it was already something that had been approved in prior years, and that we just wanted to move forward with doing it. I just felt it was better to ask and talk about that than do it and then find out we're doing something wrong. So those things are set in motion. I'm waiting, I'll be hearing from her, and I've got a meeting with her in 3 weeks because she's doing an inspection. So those are the two action items, those are the two outcomes. You have like a deliverable on one, and another one is in progress.
So this one's in progress.
In progress.
And part of the progress, the budgetary cost was $550 to $700 for installation of equipment,
This is all just preliminary at this point.
but it's only for equipment and it's not for operating costs.
He had the operating costs in there.
He did.
Yeah,
In the
They
number.
said, yeah, that, it's
That letter
15
had
to 30.
yeah.
It was minimal.
I mean, minimal.
Yeah.
In comparison to what we're
Right.
paying.
Yeah, that's my question.
But yeah, that was all part of his presentation.
Breakdown, yeah, he went over the whole thing.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
In terms of the maintenance on the operation, the daily maintenance, it all depends on what the state would put in for parameters of what we need to do. So that could change what the maintenance is. But the reality is it's just like running a treatment plant. They would say, you know, here's your discharge license, here's the requirements of the license, here's your limits of these certain criteria that we're concerned with, and here's how we want you to test for it. And we would have to incorporate those costs of testing and monitoring into the overall daily operation of the proposal.
But, I mean, it's not the guy was just using our stormwater discharge license as a baseline. It's not going to be drastically different.
No, it should
I
be
mean,
similar, but what his one concern,
What Camden is allowed to discharge into the harbor, I guarantee you, there's a lot more contamination in that than there is in what we're allowed to discharge into that little brook currently with our stormwater. So it's a reasonable thing to use at that stage. I wouldn't say
yeah,
it's
it would be
an
what you would
oversight,
use if someone gave you the permit and said, here's what we have, here's the constituents. It's a good starting point. But like he said in the meeting, he said, I don't know what could happen. He goes, they could ask you to test for all these other things, if you remember that. And we don't know that until we do it.
But we test for everything under the sun right
That's
now.
something we're not gonna
Because
know
it's
until we
leaking.
get into,
Yeah, I don't think that's gonna be the lion's share of our costs.
yeah.
There's really
Yeah.
nothing more we could possibly test
No,
for.
I
that we
mean,
can already test for.
I did talk more about this with Rich Fortin, who's, he's a hydrogeologist, and he's been working in this field for a long time with all kinds of industry. And he said that, knowing what your sludge amounts will be would be a good important thing to know going into this, because you know how he said you could have a sludge pond in the beginning for the iron?
Yeah.
That could be a number that could change a little bit, but I don't think it's gonna change the big number. You've got a big number that you're working to try to kind of reduce the cost, so it doesn't take much to be lower than $300,000 annually. But we'll see what it is. I don't know. So anyway, that's what came out of those two things.
Okay. All right. Wait a second. We go back to
Do we have any, sorry,
go ahead, Allison.
do we have any timeline for when we might be able to start with the North Quarry discharge? Because that just seems like it should be on, like, the fastest track possible.
I'm probably gonna talk with Stevie Mahar about that a little bit, about somehow trying to see if there's a way we can do that as quickly as we can. It's really the best way to do it, because, you should go through the consultants to do that, I think, only because
How about,
there could be some nuances to the whole thing that,
oh yeah, I agree that somebody should put a stamp on it. They
yeah,
wouldn't be my first choice, but,
right.
but that's fine.
It's,
That's who we're stuck with.
that's who we're using right now, and we're still in this year's budget, so. I think that makes sense, and then,
Have we used anybody
Speaking of
else?
RFPs, actually, like things we could put out to see if we want, CV Mahar has their value, but,
Yeah, the only ones we used is CD1.
well, we've used Emery and Garrett quite a bit for all of the water stuff, and then for years and years and years to do the water quality report, and then, for what, Mike changed that to bring everything under CV Mahar, which they had been doing our landfill
I see.
planning. Anyway, that's a larger discussion, but,
All right, that was an option.
I'll try to move quickly on the North Quarry pumping. I'm gonna ask questions that allow us to move as quickly as we can. But I'm gonna make sure I do something that doesn't put us in a compromising position.
oh yeah, I'm not saying just run over there this evening and.
No,
yeah,
I know you're not. I'm not.
Are you concerned at the level that we're at now, that we're approaching?
It's more that, this is the way I see it. So we filled the gut, right? Now the North Quarry level's gone up, and it's gone up above the point of where we made the seal, so to speak. Now, we're just pulling it over to the other side. So until we lower that side, we're gonna be pumping it all as leachate. It's all just money. You know what I mean? We're just basically, it's the difference between $200,000 and $300,000 is what it is. I mean, that's basically what it is. So.
It'd be great if we could get Emery and Garrett or somebody to come in, and they've done all of, over the years, these water analysis schematics and reading the stuff that they did for the board many years ago before I was on it. The board kept trying to talk about filling up the North Quarry, and Emery and Garrett was trying to constantly remind everybody that ultimately the long-term costs for this facility were going to be pumping costs, and all the different ways to reduce that was what we should really be focused on. And a lot of the stuff that they figured out from back then is still
It's exactly
relevant.
what we're doing right now. It's,
Right.
here we are, they said exactly I mean, and if you've done this for any period of time, you can look at the budget and say, all right, what do we gotta do to make this work?
Yeah.
You have to fix the leachate problem, and you gotta keep from having to make more leachate. And these are the two things we have to do. It's that, it just has to be done. Otherwise, you're gonna be bleeding all the time, costs. So we have to, and I think we can contact Emery Garrett, and, I mean, I can ask them how much they would, Sure. I can ask either one. It doesn't matter who we ask to do that, because they have the background for that too. They have all the historical information. Actually, they have more historical information on that part of it than I think CD and Mahar.
Oh, because they did all
Right.
of that for years
So
and
that
years.
might be a better option to ask them, but I just feel like it's important that they do the talking to the DEP about that.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely, because I could see myself doing it and then finding out that, we weren't supposed to do that. You can see how that goes, That would not be popular.
I found an email from 1997 that said we could, and then it was
Right,
just.
I was thinking about that, like,
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
that sounds good.
yeah.
Onto our financials, which are here, which I believe are from July 1st to May 1st. So we have two fiscal months left in this fiscal year, May, June, correct? And in general terms, Allison, this looks like we're at about a breaking point at this point. True, not true.
I will be honest that I have not looked over this
Okay.
particular document. I'm very concerned though in general. So if this, just because we know that the leachate costs are gonna be over budget by a pretty good amount, and I'm not really aware of anything that's gonna be super under budget, but,
Okay. And some of those, I hear you saying, some of that leachate cost is not in here yet.
that's what I believe.
I believe you're right, because of the billing cycle.
What do you?
75,000 is the last bill,
But when is that up to? Usually it's a three.
last quarter.
I was gonna say, it's a quarterly bill, which
I
would
mean,
be.
we're already 100,000 in the red.
It's all included though, right now.
Oh,
Okay, so yeah.
it is included in there?
Typically, the next bill that we're doing right now, which is, this
June.
is through March, so April, May, and June actually gets paid in next fiscal year.
Oh, it does?
Which is just gonna,
It's the
Well,
pattern that
it's
we
paid in the next fiscal year, where is it accrued?
in the next fiscal year. We have got 4 payments here.
Oh, so
Oh,
this
I
is 4
see.
payments?
I see, okay.
Well, that's not,
I didn't know
it
that.
just hurts us next year.
but we're already pretty hurt this year because we're 100,000 in the red.
Sure, so I guess we've got a little, actually helps us, because if we get the North Quarry
Double
fixed,
check, but I'm pretty sure we have.
we'll be in better shape, right? We can lower that, we won't have as much pumping, maybe.
I mean, the fee increases are on target to go into place for the,
Yes, so in the manager's report, I put in there that, June 1st, they're scheduled, it's been advertised, and we're ready to go on the fee increases.
On the bags?
Yes.
And your staff
And
was
that's done.
making points of it at the gate, so it was initially, I haven't had to buy anything lately, so.
Yeah,
But then the first couple of weeks that I went in, she was very on it about informing people, so.
not that this is, maybe this is not the appropriate place to talk about it, but one of the things we brought up in the budget was we were looking at possibly changing from bags
Yeah.
to tags,
Mm-hmm.
because it's a huge number. It's like, we're spending like
Yeah, why spend the money? on
$75,000 on bags,
Yeah.
and people hate them.
and they don't like them.
You wouldn't believe the arguments we had over tags.
I can imagine.
Every meeting,
Tags would cost us probably $10,000 and bags cost us
Well,
$70.
the thing is, and I agree, in talking to some of the guys down at the transfer station, we got people coming in there, we have no idea where the hell they come from.
True.
And there's a lot of them. There's a lot of people coming there to get rid of their waste.
Right.
And, you know, you either buy a ticket at the gate, or you, whatever the policy's gonna be, you turn and say this, you know, what town do you live in? You know, if I live in Evelyn or some other town, take it there, take it somewhere else, you know,
Go ahead.
So that's the reason for the setting the fees like the way that we do. I mean, I'd be more concerned about people coming from Appleton with their recycling, because we subsidize that, and if they're gonna bring us all 3 through 7, then that's gonna be pretty much just a cost to us and not a revenue source. But we've set up the pay-as-you-throw, the bag and per ton system to be revenue neutral, really. And actually, since we factored in the cost of operating the facility too, so we don't care where they come from as long as they pay. That's the whole, and I mean, in my opinion, that's the whole reason that we've gone to this system where you're paying for your trash. You're not getting a sticker and getting to throw away as much as you want just because you're a resident.
Mm-hmm.
We're not, you only care about where they come from if you're subsidizing it. But since we're not subsidizing it, that portion of it, really it actually helps the way we've set up the fee structure, because every bag we sell pays a portion of the salary of the person who operates the hopper. So actually we want more people to buy bags and go over the scale with.
if you do away with the bags and go to tags.
The idea there, the concern there would be fraud. You know, people getting away with throwing something away that didn't have a tag, and that's why we do the bags, is because you can see. But the thing is that we know that we already have some people getting away. The bags aren't a perfect system for preventing fraud.
No, but it seems like it's more controllable.
Way more controllable, because it's a specific size bag and it costs this much. If you go to tags, there's how many different bags out there, and who's gonna be able to monitor someone with a pickup truck as to how many different size bags are in the back? But here's all my tags.
Well, then mostly they go over the scale at that point.
They do?
Yeah, I don't have bags, I go over the scale. Other places are doing it. If you can save yourself $65,000 a year by going to tags, potentially, then you can pay somebody to stand there and look. We're losing a lot of revenue right now just because people throw things in that don't have bags either.
Well, let me ask this. How come we haven't factored in the cost of the bags to buy the bags?
We do.
So it really isn't costing us that much
Well,
more.
it's adding to the cost, the overall cost.
To the person that's using the service, right? Not to the taxpayer, right?
Correct.
Well, that's the goal, right? That we're passing that cost, not to the taxpayer, but we want it to be a user, pay as you go. So do we need to yet again increase, if it's say, 10 to 75, have we not done our factoring correctly with the price of the bags? If we're now talking about, well, if we went to tags, we would save $65,000. In essence, that's what you just said.
I agree. It would really be, there'd be different reasons too for, a lot of people just don't like the bags are a little bit of a clunky system if the whole purpose is to prevent people from disposing of their trash for free. So there are some places that have done the tag thing. I don't think anybody knows for sure that it's a great system, but a lot of people are double bagging their trash, and so it would, but you're right, the system, the way we have it is like, well, yeah, the bags are a pain in the neck, but that's the system we figured out, and we're charging people for it.
Right.
So it's, if we were to save money doing it a different way, it would be, part of the reason would be it would be more to reduce waste and to make a better system, not so much just to.
Yeah, and it carries us further into like the contract, like where we estimated the new fees to be somewhere around the 3-year point.
Right.
Let's say we went to tags, we say 75,000, then we'd be estimating somewhere around the 4-year.
Well, could we alleviate some of the fraud, because I've seen it happen myself, as little as I'm there.
I agree with you.
If there was somebody,
Yeah.
that, when you come through that gate, there's a receipt that happens no matter what. If you're bringing something in, there's a receipt to go along with it. I don't get out to where I'm throwing the contractor in place, hey, did you pay the $5? Yeah, I did, but maybe I didn't.
I mean, you could make this so somebody couldn't throw anything away for free. They have barcodes on these tags, you could have a barcode reader, and, that's how they do it.
Right.
But there's a website, and it's on the EPA archive list, and it talks about the advantages and disadvantages of prepaid bags versus tags and stickers. So maybe I can send that link to you. It's real clear, it goes over the pros and cons of each one. Depends on how you structure it.
Right.
If you do it right, you probably can make a better system.
Right.
Because, you could have it so that there's an opening and you've got to put it in through this opening as a barcode reader, and it doesn't, if it goes in, it sounds like an alarm and screams at you,
Right.
You gotta.
Well, yeah, that sounds
No,
wonderful.
I mean, I'm exaggerating, but we don't have anything right now.
Right, but I'm just saying, there's a person when you come in. There isn't always a person when you leave. And to me, that's the flaw in the system, because I've watched.
When you leave, meaning when you go to the hopper?
Yes.
Well, there is.
What?
But they don't.
You're
check.
supposed
But they
to
don't
leave
check.
way out.
We've talked about this, and I agree with you.
Yes.
I don't disagree with you. Part of the issue, I think, is the people that aren't using the bags.
Well,
It's people like me doing what I could get away with.
Well,
a
you
lot.
don't know if they paid for it or not, because it's not in a yellow bag.
let me give you this basic example. I'm behind a lady, it was a woman, so, so be it. I'm behind her at the hopper. I watch her throw numerous, she has a cap on her little Toyota pickup truck.
Yeah.
She throws this color bag, that color bag, this. So I have to go back because of the way that I was there that day. I said, you can just throw, he goes, oh, she just bought some bags. So I assumed she was gonna I said, she didn't put anything in anything. So she bought the bags, and then she threw all the bags that she had right into the hopper. So she just got.
She saved herself a week's worth of bags,
Or
maybe 2 weeks.
exactly. So there's a basic flaw right there, because nobody's checking at that point, and they're better now than they used to be.
Yeah.
But still, when things like that, how many times a week does that potentially, do you see what I'm saying?
I don't know, I've got a number in my head what I think the shrinkage is, and it's pretty high.
Right.
There's this whole thing about the long-term bags and tags and blah, 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 but there are, right at this very moment, and I know that I've been told over there before that you implemented something where they're supposed to be doing receipts and.
Jeremy's supposed to be asking for giving them a receipt.
Everybody's agreed this is a problem, but it's not, I like to test it occasionally, like, I'm like, oh, I'll take a receipt, and then when I get to Jeff, I'm like, here, Jeff, here's my receipt that shows that I paid for this contractor bag.
Like if you're not using the yellow bags, you should have to give the receipt to the attendant.
But nobody is forcing that on me, and I don't know if they're just being extra polite. I always tell Jeremy, like, no, don't, be as harsh on me as you would be with somebody else, but they should demand that somebody like me take a receipt, and then I should have to show it to Jeff that I paid for the contractor bag. That could be implemented right now.
There's a little bit of stuff going on. I've seen the faces of the gate people when the line is out onto Union Street. But people trying to get in there, they're trying their damnedest to get the cars to move through, and they're taking shortcuts, and I don't blame them.
No, it's not that with this.
True, but there again,
receipt no matter what.
The burden at that point is not at the person at the gate. It's at the person trying to get rid of their trash and the timing of which. If I show up somewhere in any business and there's a long line, that's not the business's fault. So unless there's something that goes wrong or whatever.
People take it out on the gate people. I've seen it happen.
When you go to Hannaford on a busy day, the lines are much longer. they don't change their policy that day of how they operate because the lines are long, Bob.
No.
So you can't use that rationale because I chose to go shopping the day before Thanksgiving, or I chose to go Saturday morning at 10 o'clock when everybody else showed up.
I disagree. The difference is, in Hannaford, they have to check out every piece and everything, they have to do no matter what. When a person is at the gate, and I've seen it, and the line is out the street, and people are tooting their horns, I've seen happen,
Right.
they're waving people through. And
No.
yeah, I'm sorry, I've seen it, they're just trying to get people
They
through.
wave
They're
people
not,
through when
they're
they just
not, they're not checking the yellow bags, they're not checking for anything. The cars are going through and they're just waving them through, because they're
Well,
trying
that's
to
a
get
little
them.
extreme. I mean, that I feel it's a lot, so if I wanted to be able to get through there quickly, then I could go ahead, I could buy all the yellow bags ahead of time, I
Yeah.
could put them in there, and I wouldn't have to talk to anybody, you know, I could just show, oh, it's yellow bags, that'd be fine. But for me to be able to go through and avoid the yellow bag system is like what I consider a luxury a little bit. And so I get there and they eyeball it basically, and they give a fee, which should be on the high end. And if I don't think that, and I can either quickly pay that and not make a fuss,
Or you can go
or I
on the
have the
scale.
option of going over the scale and, you know, slowing myself down. But if somebody's trying to get through there quickly, then what they need to do is not argue at all and just pay quickly.
That's what happens. My car, you can't,
But
they can't see the yellow
asking
bags
for a
in my car.
receipt is not a,
Because it's all, the windows are all tinted.
I've seen people empty the yellow bags.
Yeah. Anyway,
I wouldn't doubt it.
let's go back. We can carry this on forever, we're not gonna solve it tonight.
I wouldn't go long enough. to see
Okay,
a lot.
everybody, let's move on. Any other highlights in these guys you can think of? that we should-
so one of the reasons that this is misleading is because it hasn't accounted yet for, and this happens every year, the transfers, from the thing, like the Jacobs Quarry Closure Reserve, $100,000 budgeted.
Yeah.
And I say this every year, that could we please just go ahead and make that right away, you know, at the beginning, so we don't go through the year diluting ourselves, because we're like, oh, well, 80% and 80%.
I see,
So that's something right there, then
I see.
and I asked Jody about that at one point, and she said that the auditor didn't like her to do that. And it was this, you know, maybe Eric, who could help us, get through that, because it's the major reason, this needs to be a tool for us to see how we're doing.
Sure.
Not a just fun thing for making it as convenient as possible for the auditor, or whatever reason that would, I don't,
Yeah, because there's $100,000 that needs to be taken out of this.
right, and then the baler rebuild,
I see.
for example.
Yeah. Well, there's
something going on there.
No, that's the leftover amount from.
Really?
Yeah, and that'll
Oh,
be,
but we're putting that in the budget for,
that'll be a little bit lower than it is right there. There's one more small piece that needs to be fixed, but it'll be somewhere in that
So
range.
to Alice's point, why are accrued benefits not expended at all?
oh, because nobody's crittered and.
Oh, I thought you were accruing the benefits for future buyout,
Yeah, shouldn't that be the?
If it happens.
no, if you're accruing benefits for future buyout, that is a cost to the entity that goes into a holding pool for when the person goes, they pay out of it. This doesn't suggest that at all.
I don't know why they have that in the,
Capital reserves, I don't
in the
either.
expense summary report.
But that should be,
That makes it look like we're planning to pay from it.
well, that accrued benefits should, accrued, it's exactly that, you put the money aside for when somebody pulls the plug and leaves. And
I know, but we don't normally budget to spend from it as part of our,
You could expense it and make it a liability,
I know,
so technically they should expense that, but
right,
unless somebody's retiring and they're planning on pulling some out of,
yeah,
paying it out early, at which point you would just hit the line, but whatever's left should be expensed and stuck in the liability account.
right.
I don't know why there's.
So, I mean, Jacob's Quarry, I would tell the auditor to forget that and just do
Yeah,
it.
I would.
I mean, who the heck cares? I mean, she could post it and at the end of the year, just change the date, if it's that big of a deal, but there's no reason, if the auditor doesn't like it too bad, the auditor works for us, not the other way around.
I agree.
I
Well,
agree, so maybe we can add that to this, so little things like that, so once we,
no, the accrued
so we're not in
benefits
great
also.
shape, that's basically the.
Well, I see 165,000
If that is truly accrued benefits, it shouldn't have been accrued over the year, not at the end of the year. Or it shouldn't be there at all. If you're not accruing benefits for somebody's vacation or buyout or whatever you're buying out of, that shouldn't be accrued.
Yeah, that should just be the amount of vacation that's being carried forward.
Yeah, exactly.
Did we budget the previous year to replenish that?
Well, if you did, it should be, it should have been accrued, there should be some net.
But I have
The balance shouldn't be 65,000, I see 165,000 expenses that haven't been accrued.
Yeah, so it's either 100 or 168, neither of
Or
which are great. So
68, yeah, 68.
why don't can we put a note on there to ask Jody for both of those things? One we know the answer to, the other we don't.
Okay.
So the accrued liability and the accrued.
22, the budget I'm not seeing.
I have 55,
Jacob's Quarry and the accrued benefits. Posted.
On the 20 year-to-date fiscal year 22 expense, I don't see anything about
Accrued benefits.
accrued benefits. There's a health insurance.
Unless we did it as a separate vote to replenish the reserve fund or something. I don't,
I mean, if you did, it still should have been accrued to date. To your point about Jacob's Quarry, it's the same thing. It should be,
well, I believe we haven't sent that over to Camden National yet. I think that's probably why it's not on there, but I think we should do it. I think
so, I mean, in the budget, it's under accrued benefit liability reserve. It says, audited balance and reserve, 55,000, audited balance, and the other reserve, 22,000, and then it shows a delta of $11,438, but then it says transfer from unassigned fund, 68,153.
That's this number.
Yeah.
So it should be accrued.
transfer from the unassigned fund balance?
That's what it says.
For FY 20, for this?
For this year, for this year's budget, that was what we had in the notes for that. And that was, the 56,715 plus 11,438.
I think this is gonna take us longer to resolve. than
No,
Jerry.
I'll ask.
Let's resolve. Let's resolve.
I'll look into it.
You need help, let me know.
That's a finance committee thing too, so.
All right.
Because you're right, it's a false.
Well, excuse the whole thing I mentioned earlier about being at a break even at this point in time or not.
I've seen this happen so many times, I was like, we're in pretty good shape.
And change the subject a little bit, just back on the bag thing. Now, how's this roadside cleanup thing? Who's footing the bill on that? Have we just eaten that?
It's not.
Roadside cleanup,
Money in
like
the budget,
keep Rockport
There's
beautiful.
money in the budget for that.
They
So
do
the
pay for
board
that, so that's
voted-
not, Midco Solid Waste ain't eating that?
No, we definitely are. There was a board vote several years ago about, first of all, it's not like a huge
No, it's very small.
number. Unfortunately, our numbers of volunteers going out and cleaning the roads is not increasing, it's decreasing, so.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
it's
just
hard
wanted,
to recruit.
cause they had, Rockport has the prisoners come and do that,
On Route 1.
and we pick out, Route 1, Route 17, and I just want, there's quite a few bags that get picked up, they talk about not putting anything in a bag, you're not selling bags for that.
No, that got scaled in and we have the number, we can get the number and look at.
Right, who's paying the bill?
Do you have the total tons?
Midco Solid Waste.
Midco Solid Waste, that's the one thing trash related that we subsidized, and we should put it on the agenda every so often to
Yep.
discuss it again, but
Wasn't that part of the?
the idea is that there's a benefit to the towns of having people clean up trash from the roads, because unless we want to sign up public
I
works.
think Rockport should go for it.
Yeah.
No,
That's what I'm getting at, is the town of Hope ain't benefiting from that.
Right,
Well, they
if-
have an account if they want to benefit. And
Hope
so
has
there's
had
a bill.
big groups of volunteers in the past go out and do this. The fact that they didn't organize one this year.
You're right.
Rockport cost $293 this year.
Did,
Not very.
So we fundraise.
Oh, so I didn't know what the figure was,
you think it'd be a
But
lot.
who's paying it?
Midco Solid.
Midco
So we're eating it.
We do,
So one thing, Marcy did request, she was hoping to be on a future agenda to, give the board an update on the roadside cleanups and all of that, so. Am I, because there's also some information available, like there are vests and trash pickers and, bags, and so for any group that wants to organize a cleanup, Marcy and I have paid for a good amount of this ourselves. Marcy did a ton of fundraising, so we lend out the supplies to people at no cost. So, but a few years back, there was a whole presentation on the board about this, and it would be good to renew it.
So I didn't know anything about this, but I guess my point would be, should there be some discussion as to, should this come out of individual town budgets instead of, like Mike's point, if Rockport wants to, spend 2 weeks cleaning up the roads, how does Camden or Lincolnville or Hope benefit? I understand it benefits Rockport, but if it's a town-based function, this is the Midcoast Solid Waste Corporation, not the town of Rockport or not the town of Hope. Should there be a discussion with individual select boards? And being on the select board for 9 years, I never had this discussion ever once, but maybe when we discuss our road budgets in the future, each town, there should be a little money, a new line, so to speak, for if individual towns want to have a cleanup day or weekend, that it's funded by the people that live in the town, not the people that live in the other towns. Does that make sense to you?
It makes perfect sense to me. It goes under Camden, it's the Camden Roadside Cleanup Rockport, they all are individual accounts.
Right.
However, and absolutely, if you want to make this even more difficult that can work fine. It's just, right now, Camden and Rockport do a lot of, like Marcy and I do a lot of it together. And so Camden and Rockport, when we go and pick up trash, sometimes, a lot of these roads are Camden and Rockport, or God forbid we pass over the line into Lincolnville. Sometimes that gets, that gets mixed up, and the idea of having to be like, I have 2/3 Camden trash and 1/3 Lincolnville trash back in my trailer. But ultimately, I agree with what you're saying, that I would like the opportunity to go to each of the select boards and say, hey, why don't you make a decision? Because I think it could be a good way to get the word out too.
Yes.
And if each of the towns, if Rockport wants to say, no, we're not saying for volunteers to do that,
Right.
that'll generate a discussion. And
I'm not trying to make it more difficult.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just trying to
It
make
should
it.
be discussed at the board level and
Right.
put on the agenda at some point in time.
Right.
And to just iron it out, because I'm
Right.
sure everybody has mixed
Right.
emotions about it. Beth, you had your hand up.
I just want to make the point that this was initially under the umbrella of Waste Watch Committee,
I was
which
gonna
was
say
a
that.
board sanctified
Right.
committee.
Yes.
And they gave them funds.
Yes.
So that's why we bought some equipment, and then they kind of broke off, and the.
Oh, it needs to be addressed.
Yeah, I think that needs to be.
Well, with the price of everything going up, like bags going up and stuff like that, I mean,
Right, so-
Midcoast always should be self-sustainable,
Right.
and how much are we accounting for the free stuff that,
Mhm.
if nobody's paying for that stuff?
actually, you know what,
Open for discussion.
we have community, I do agree it should just go on an agenda so that, Marcy can present, but there is the swap shop and community, projects line, or even the waste reduction education line. That would actually make a lot of sense to any expenses that have incurred to this.
The thing is,
From
we
this,
have to track how much each town does, so that's why there's 4 accounts. So that Hope knows how much they did, it's like so you can go back and tell your people that helped.
Right, it was fun to be able to do
It's
that, but
not
we could
meant to
just
be a
pay it.
town function. I think it's a
Right.
Midco solid waste
But-
function.
It was initially.
It could,
So-
because sometimes we wanted to keep
So
track of
it
it.
it comes back to the
But you could
board
pay
has
for
to
it
make
out.
a majority decision on this. And that's the only way you're gonna get through thrash.
I only brought it up just because I saw some of the receipts, so.
So
I
Mike's
was like,
fault.
okay, we'll take that.
That's
The
fine.
auditors know
That's
to do
fine.
this.
Didn't the Lions Club or whatever come in here and say they wanted to do that anyway?
Yeah.
What happened to that?
The Lions Club is bottles.
Bottles, I think, yeah, the
I thought they
bottles.
wanted to do a trash pickup too.
Not those,
I've never heard that.
Just the bottles.
Oh, I thought they said they wanted to do
I
some
don't think
roadside
so,
cleanup
Eric. I
too,
don't
but.
remember that they did.
Maybe they do, they're still roads off to be cleaned.
They are, yeah.
I know the Boy Scouts went out the other day too.
I saw them out there, yeah.
Did some,
I don't know if
and
that
then the
was,
prisoners have been out, and then I think there's been volunteers.
On state roads.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The volunteers, and a
Marcy
few volunteers.
organized the prisoners. I mean,
I
it's
put
super
some out
awesome.
to see if you would come into Lincoln and get some.
No, I've been keeping an eye on it.
Still there.
In Rockland, we had to do all the roadside
There's
cleanup
this
ourselves.
house,
Yeah.
the Martin
Yeah, it
Culver.
works.
Yeah.
You know, that, we didn't have the volunteers.
Well, basically we do, because we have to go around and pick it all up.
Right,
They bag it up.
right.
I think we
And
should
we have
assign
to
it from
pick it up.
Public Works.
All right, that's what I just said. We had
I'd like to move into the rest of the financials.
Yeah, time out. Any other questions? on
Then talk to the guys.
Yeah, I have questions, just
Go ahead,
quick
Brian.
I'm sorry.
questions.
Go ahead.
On the labor lines and the fuel lines as to how did we miss so bad on fuel and labor? Is it because the wages went up that we weren't unaccounted, or was it?
I mean, I can answer that.
Specifically overtime where we missed it by 56%.
So this budget was developed by another manager. So I can't answer how he came to, arrived at that number, but that's, the other manager created this budget. And part of the reason why there's an increase we're seeing there is we negotiated the contract after we did the budget, okay, for wages, which saw an increase. And then fuel line, fuel's been, you know, a lot of your fuel's gone up significantly from the time the budget was done. The price of fuel. I mean, all the budgets in the whole town, the price of fuel is up, and everybody's over budget. It's just.
Really, the price has gone up since we did this budget?
Oh, yeah, you think about this budget was done almost.
The budget gets done so far ahead of time
Probably
because
$1.50
of,
per gallon.
because of it gets done even before the
A year and a half
towns.
ago, the budget was done before the.
No,
fuel
way more than a
prices.
year and a half ago.
Yeah, probably almost 2 years ago, right?
What's his name, was still here?
Yeah, so let's think about when we.
Well, that's what I was trying to figure, I
So
was
we
thinking
get to
a
do-
year, and a year ago, it's higher than it was now. And a year and a half ago, I think it was higher than it is now.
Yeah.
That's true.
Right?
That's true.
So this was
That's
my, and-
I guess my point.
No,
It went to almost $5 a gallon, somewhere between a year and a half and 2 years ago, right?
no, actually, middle of last year was hellishly high. So at least the diesel fuel was.
Yeah, diesel has stayed
Remember,
high.
you use a lot of diesel, only this last 2 months has diesel come down.
Yeah,
So-
now
so
you're
this was
$4 right
This
now.
was, I shot December 2021.
Okay.
So that's the fuel issue. You know.
Okay, so back to the labor, I realize there's another manager's, but specifically on the overtime, yes, wages, obviously, but they didn't go up by 56%, so that would, I'm questioning why are we off so far? Take account the increase in the hourly wage, because.
You mean the overtime piece?
Yes.
The overtime piece, we had somebody that was working overtime,
Short, short-handed ones, yeah.
right,
Yeah.
right. Very.
So you had more overtime.
He was staying over and, emptying the sheetrock and moving the metal every day. He was staying over, you know, he was working quite a bit of hours, is what it was.
Just one person?
Just one person, yeah.
Okay, and
It
that
doesn't take much. Well, it's fine, you gotta put, percentages is nice, but you gotta put it in dollars. We're talking about $5,000 overage. That's not hellishly high.
Right.
I think that was making up for other things. We did, when we voted on the union contract, we were aware that we would be overspending that budget line. Because we had already Mike had set the budget, and then
Right.
without finalizing the union contract, so.
Right, but we thought we were gonna be close,
Oh, yeah,
not miss it by 56% so far.
well, on the overtime though, I see that as a little bit of a different issue, because that's
Well, I
more
mean,
like.
the last time I questioned the overtime, it was because of the chipping that happened on the weekend. And that was primarily where the overtime was happening, and that isn't happening anymore, correct?
What was it again?
It was chipping
Oh.
on the
It
weekend.
was chipping on the weekend, so where the overtime was happening was we were shorthanded, we had one person, he was emptying and doing all of the utility stuff when people weren't there.
Right.
And then the other thing was, we were paying people to come in early, and I didn't know about this part, they were coming in early to let the Lions Club in to count bottles. And I'm like, why are we doing this?
Yeah.
Come full circle.
No, I mean, no, and I said, so I changed that, and I talked with the person that was coming in, and we've hired another person, and like I told him, I just want you to do this part.
Right.
And I'm trying to get other people to do the other part, so that we don't have overtime, and he hasn't been doing it since it's been happening, but
So how'd you fix the lion problem?
I said, we're gonna do it during the regular work.
Right.
I asked Bob one time, did anybody ever offer you a key to get in here? Did no? Why?
I mean,
Well, I think
anyhow,
liability,
fixed it.
you'd have to have an employee.
Brian,
on site.
other questions?
Excuse me?
Other questions?
No.
No?
So,
Not yet.
just so you know, on the fuel, the average price in 2021 was $3.10, and in 2022 it was $4.06.
Yeah.
So that is a significant difference from when we did the budget to the current processing period.
Right.
My only other concern on the budget though is we seem to be way under what we were expecting in revenues. If you look at the bag fees, 138,000.
If you remember, we saw, we were tracking this when we did the budget, and that's why we had said it'd be good to start the fees before the budget.
Right, I know, but we're never, in May and June, where we were only budgeted 540,000, and there's no way we're gonna sell 140,000 in May and June.
So we're ahead on the per ton
Yeah,
and behind on the per bag. What we want to see though is that total, like the percentages should be similar to the expenses on, not in numbers, but in percentages on the tipping. I mean, it's possible that more people are doing what I do and not using bags.
and our tipping is at 76, so.
Oh.
And our bag revenue is at 74, so I mean, it's in line, but I just want everyone to realize that once we take the 170,000 out and put it in the accrual, then we're down to 300,000, but we're still behind
In revenue.
our $100,000 in our revenue.
Yeah.
We're gonna end short $100,000 on that per bag fee.
Yep.
The per bag though should be viewed together. I mean, I agree that we're overall gonna be behind, but I believe it's mostly gonna be attributable to the leachate.
Oh, yeah.
But it would be a problem if we're taking in a lot less revenue than we expected for trash and paying out just as much as we expected, but I don't think that's the case because we're lower on bags, but we're higher on the per ton category, so that.
Yeah, we're just not making it
also
up.
mixed load.
Hmm?
Mixed load is like 50-50, trash and demo.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're over everyone.
The demo was way down too.
Yeah.
I mean, when in Mike's defense, when he did this budget, they were just coming off of that crazy COVID stuff where there was tons of demo and tons of trash. So he probably saw that number and said, we're gonna be somewhere around the same thing.
Yeah.
And now we're not,
No, he was wrong every year in the demo, but in the trash, the way we budget it is to make it so it doesn't matter, because we make sure that our fees cover.
Well, I understand that, but we're not making up anything either, so.
Well, we need to sell a lot more bicycles.
Right, I know, I saw that, no, it was lawnmowers this time, wasn't it?
We
Was it
need
the
another
lawnmowers
revenue
that were way
generating.
up?
No, you're right, Eric, it's treading backwards.
Right, and I just want,
Because of the leachate,
and
really.
if we've looked at our budget going forward, assuming these similar numbers, I mean,
We're not gonna have enough money in the unassigned fund balance
right,
to.
and that's my concern. I'm not saying specifically here, I'm looking forward, always, so. I just want to bring it to everybody's attention that there's a skew there, and it could end up running us over.
Which is why when we have that conversation about how much we should keep in the unassigned fund balance.
Well, that's not accrued here either.
Well,
It's not
no, it wouldn't be, but it's what we use when there's a shortfall.
Well, there is a shortfall, 150, unassigned fund balance hasn't been touched.
Yeah, we haven't pulled. we haven't
No, I'm
added
saying
to
that we're treading in a direction this year where we're gonna end up in the red, and then setting us up to go into, with next year's budget, will also, knowing in our minds what we budgeted for different things, like the leachate, if we do repeat that experience next year, we're gonna again end up in the red. And so the source of those funds comes from the unassigned fund balance. Both years, it's not like we don't pay people, we still pay people. So
Yeah,
that we have not as much, not maybe enough of a cushion.
yeah, we're gonna be tight because.
It's gonna be,
next
well,
year-
there's three items on here that you're talking about. There's one is the bag fee, you're right, is 138.
That'll help us.
Well, that's not in a very good position. The other one is town demo, but the positive side, they haven't accrued anything out of the 150 that's been budgeted out of the unassigned fund balance.
Oh, to use?
Right, yeah, I saw.
Oh, that's not,
So,
It's
okay.
not accrued. Yeah. So.
Where'd you see that on?
There's line 63 in the general revenue account.
But again, you know, this is nice to see, but without a balance sheet, it's also a little complicated.
That's very true.
I mean, I think it would be nice to have a balance sheet
I do too.
with these, because I'm looking at this and it's a snapshot as of May 1, but not knowing our cash position and our actual liabilities.
I agree.
I'm kind of going, yeah, I don't really know where we're at.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Oh, yeah, you'd think that with all the people who pay and the auditors and stuff, they could come up with some kind of template that would help boards track.
It's a balance sheet. It's a balance.
Yeah,
Well, yeah.
I just need the balance sheet.
Jody should be able to produce that very easily.
Right, I'm not saying we can't get it, but it needs to be part of our
I agree.
monthly reports,
I
because
agree with you. That's the only way to
the
measure
P
it.
and L helps, but really, my knowledge is gonna come off the
Well,
balance sheet.
this is
I
not.
don't believe that
this
there's
is
like
not
a
fully
print
approved
balance sheet
yeah,
option right now,
yeah,
but-
Right,
That's the problem.
yeah,
So they're, to your point, I think it makes a hell of a difference with
yeah.
the,
Because
The
if
balance
I
sheet.
knew we had $600,000 sitting in cash and everything's paid, I probably wouldn't really be concerned, but if we got $5,000 and we have bills outstanding, I'm concerned.
There is no balance sheet that's just gonna, that Jody's just gonna print off for us in the middle of the year. So the auditor does that, I'm not defending the system, I'm just saying
What
it
system
is,
they use?
what?
What system they use? Trio. Trio can do it.
Trio.
Trio can do it.
Well, whatever the system, it seems to be the theme, because we've canceled our town meeting because we have no idea how much we have.
Your budget's gonna be.
We have no idea how much money we have as a town right now, at all. No, zero idea.
The town part of it we do.
The town we do, the audit's all done, it's the school, which is 80% of the budget, has been, so we're looking for a guy like Eric to go straight, you looking for a job at 69 superintendent's office?
Yeah, I'm on my third nonprofit audit right now. I'm doing 3 at the same time. And it's not much different than this, let me tell you. For them to say they can't produce a balance sheet
That's
is
not true.
ridiculous.
I'm not
I'm
saying
not
that's necessarily
arguing
what
with
would
you.
be said,
Right.
but
I'm just saying, I print monthly reports for all of my clients. When I'm reconciled and everything's done, I go print, here's your reports.
you're an auditor.
Hmm?
You are an auditor, I thought.
I'm just an accountant, I don't audit, but I'm doing an audit. I'm doing an audit with
A
CPAs.
bookkeeper do that too.
Yes.
It's all in the system. It's not difficult to produce a balance sheet. It should be part and parcel of every financial we have on the board meetings. There's no reason why I can't.
Yeah, so,
Yeah, we gotta have that. We gotta have it.
But that's not what we get for Camden, just to be, it's not like it's any different. We get the same
it's-
thing where we look and we're like, oh, percentage,
Yeah,
it's the
that's
same
a
process.
little different ballgame, but you get to this one, I would agree. We don't have the challenges that are cruel here are mind-boggling. And to find out the elements you brought up and Brian brought up and blah, blah, I say, oh boy, first statement I made, looks like it's a revenue and expense break even. Not even close.
it's almost like it'd be better not to give us this sometimes because it makes, you know what I mean? Because people do, they just look at the bottom line and it's like,
That's right, that's where a balance sheet.
But I don't.
I've been saying we're in trouble for quite some time.
No, I can see that I can see that there's issues, but it would be very helpful if I could see the full financial picture so that I can say, and go back and say, okay, this one number doesn't make sense to me, I want the detail.
Just pull up the audit that they just gave us from last year. But it would, I agree with you, I hate having to open up 8 different documents to try to figure out.
I think it's a good point, I think the action should be for balance sheets going forward.
Yeah,
Plus we have accounts receivable.
yeah, of $138,000.
Well, accounts receivable, that's still an accrual item, that shows up in the balance sheet.
Speaking of that, I've always been confused, it seems that towns, and I assume Midco Solid Waste, we often, when we look at these things, we see the numbers of what we bill and not what we've actually brought in. Like, I hate to use an example here, but like, nothing in our system was triggered in Camden when Rockport was paying like only a portion of their wastewater bill. Because everything is like, in our system is all like what we billed and not what actually comes in. How does that?
That's weird, because we should have an AR that says this, that said, would have said, down Rockport owes you money.
Right.
Does this tell us
Towns
what we
don't
bill
do
or what's
that
come
though,
in?
towns and cities, like, have, same thing happened in Rockland, I'm looking at this thing, and it's like, oh,
This tells you.
I'm doing great.
And Eric, to your point, at the AR on the balance sheet would show you that.
So bill.
And you could ask them what the detail was of why is the AR so high?
Because some of these, I sometimes look at them, but then I look at the company name and I'm like, oh, okay, well, it's a good company.
Right.
You know, but.
But what about the revenue summary? Is that what's actually come in?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, thank God.
Yes,
Okay.
for Midco's, but
Yes.
not for the town.
Right, for the town, it's,
Beth actually does do that extra step of checking that.
Right.
The town doesn't. So when you're looking
Right, that's what I
at this for the town, you think you've made that money, but you don't
You
have
have
that
money.
money.
No, it's like billing out your property taxes. So you bill out $10 million worth of property taxes, and 4 million people, well, you get $5 million in on the first round, well, great, you've made half, but then you get to the end and you only get 3, well, you still have $2 million of standing, it should show up.
It should.
well, that's good to know that this actually is real numbers.
Yeah, I break down it.
Any other questions on the financials?
No.
All right, so,
But this is good, we're talking about it.
other than the action on the AR, which I think we should have every time, you should have every time going forward, whenever there's a financial statement, it should be there.
Yeah, I'd like to say it would be nice to have a balance sheet and potentially an AP if we start to climb, but, you know, but I don't, without the balance sheet, I don't know how much money we actually owe, so.
That's true.
You know, because that makes a big difference when I'm looking at this going, our revenue's kind of okay, but if we owe $100,000, I'm gonna be sitting here going, ugh.
Right, good point.
No, we pay stuff when we.
Well, I'm not
That
saying we
I can tell you.
don't, but I don't know, you know, I don't know that because I'm not seeing it on a balance sheet.
He's just saying the number's not there.
Yeah.
AP will be very low.
Thank you, Lulu.
All right, is there any other questions on it? If not, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion about adjourning? All those in favor? Josh?
Yes.
He heard that.
Are you tired of listening to me?
Thank you very much.
How's the audio?
No, I wanna recruit you.
Audio was great that whole time. Once I fixed it.
School unions.
I wonder how that's done.
All right, hold on, let me get the mic.
Oh,
I'm sure they're scrambling.